Hey everybody, Asher here, and welcome to Creeks. This is Roadwarden, and today we are continuing our journey near the end of the first day, where we are in a town placed among a few brooks that was built by people long ago. Not that long ago, but when its current residents were children. So that means they've grown up, and what were they taught? It's hard to say. We have a carpenter who's incompetent, a hunter that nearly got eaten by a saurian. I half wonder what old Halva the farmer is going to have to say. But let's talk to Ephraim first. Let's go to a familiar face. At first, he doesn't look at you. What do you think about Ella? He repeats your question, making sure he heard it correctly. I respect him. He took good care of me as an older brother. Our tale isn't an easy one, so I'd rather keep it to ourselves before you blurt something back at him. So the only hunter around? Of course not theirs. He takes a suspiciously long pause. 7 of us. The tribe is small. We have enough food without daily trips. If we catch too much meat, it spoils, so it's better to let the animals feel safe. Very Oregon Trail style. I approve of that. You try to change the topic, but the man suddenly looks around and lowers his wolf's head. Well, there's just one issue. 3 of my friends left the village just a few days ago, and, well, they haven't returned yet. But they should. Ella's going to ask questions soon. So, are you worried about the other hunters? He walks around from time to time looking at you with an open mouth. Not sure where to start, he takes off his heavy cloak and looks you in the eyes. They left a few days to seek and kill some big game, each of them a different one, then bring all of them for me to judge. His confident voice falters when he mentions his own part. The winner would have caught me the prey of the greatest size, rarity, utility, and with the greatest threat. He turns away and lowers the wolf's mouth, so it sounds like they had a hunting contest. Lovely thing to talk about at the end of the day. They are hunters and fighters, but also close friends. If one of them was in trouble, the others would have done all they could to help. They've been a team for years and were planning to start a family this winter, you know. Their last big adventure before Dahlia's belly locks her at home. He gave you quite a tale of their deeds and features. Dahlia is the bravest of them with the strongest legs. She has simple ways and looks for beasts in the open, by the roads. Her hair is light, always tied in a single braid. Admon is a man who seeks paths and challenges. He believes that seeking knowledge of the peninsula will bring the tribe ways to survive hardships. He is smarter than the others, and knows more about dressing the wild game than any of us. His arms are small, so he often places traps. His hair is a bit darker than Dahlia's, but short, just like his beard. Vashel is not a man, though they were born with a prick, and wears brown and green to blend in with the trees. They hunt like a gargoyle, hiding among the leaves, jumping like a creature when it gets close. Because of that, they have often roamed the woods, even those that are far away from the village. So, should we look for them and look for a reward here? I think this is important enough if he's telling this. I still deserve a reward. Isn't helping 3 young, strong souls enough? Seeking your look, he raises a voice. His obsidian edge club and touches his chest with it. Then I will assist you, friend. For your brave deeds, you may count on me on a day of great challenge. Wow. Thanks. As he lowers his weapon, he winks at you. And others will be grateful as well. You know that. So, your assistants, huh? How about some dragon bones? We learned last episode that these people in creeks are a little sensitive, and we don't just want to shut them down with the mean words. So let's ask about where we start. He looks at you as if you're slow. I would have found it myself, you know. Let the horse take you to other settlements. Ask there. Well, if I find him, what should I tell them? Have you no shred of optimism? Maybe they're fine. Just tell them to come home. We've got enough wood and food to start the next feast, and I have a hint that an honorable guest may be welcome there. He smiles at you, and for a moment you think you see the wolf's head wink. So do you often send loners here? This isn't a hunt, but a competition. The winner names their first child. Wow, really? I've heard their arguments. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to pick a name when you have 3 parents. He chuckles to himself. Once the memory fades, he gets serious again. But I can't disagree with you, friend. It's the first time in many years since my tribe's folk have gone on such a reckless trip, and I fear it may remind us why the peninsula isn't a place for adventures. You know, this reminds me of a series of Octavia Butler books, but of course the 3 parties included 1 alien. I'd have to look up the name of those books again, but they were really good. So we have Adam, Dahlia, and Vashel. We'll try. So if we're looking to help the foragers, because remember, we have a quest there too. So that's their scheme. He looks in the tavern's direction, pausing for a moment, then straightens up. Ah, so you're seeking advice from a more experienced hunter, because apparently the Creek's people are known for their hunting here. Well, there is the usual stuff. Don't fight hungry, have a decent jacket, be sure to have something to block the bird's charge. Oh, and maybe, he points at the sky, then stretches his arms of holding a long stick, a spear! The longer you keep the runner at a distance, the better. Okay, we're not going to worry about helping the foragers here. Have you ever fought such a big bird? Not yet, but I ran away a few times, and not everyone can say that. He lets out a burst of jaunty laughter. They're way too common at the edges of our woods, if you ask me. Ever since I met the first one, I jog. Maybe not every day, but almost. And interestingly, if we look over here, this looks like the edges of the woods here. So have a good hunting. That's fine. So we could seek shelter right now, but I think we have a little bit more exploration to do after we talk to old Halva. Let me just take a quick drink here. You follow the path between the fields, witnessing a one-sided conversation between old Halva, my bad, old Halva and a barely adult man. She orders him around, pointing at various plants, criticizing the sight of weeds, and addressing the fancy clothes he's wearing. He observes his red-dyed boots and lets out a relieved sigh after your arrival. I better change, he mumbles, heading into the main square. The woman spares you a wry glance, then turns away, focused on the struggling vegetables. She's the only person in the village who wears clothes made of plant fabric, but they're weathered and covered with decades-old patches. Her hands, clasped behind her back, are constantly twitching. So this doesn't seem like someone to be jokeful with. How are you doing? We could ask her what's for sale. Let's just ask how she's doing. After a moment, she turns to you slowly, chewing her bottom lip. I'm doing my break! Say what you want and fast. Well, what do you have for sale? We sold what we had. We're lacking hunters, and these, she looks at the wrinkled vegetables, will go into stew if they're even worth picking. Without noticing, she grabs her left forearm with her right hand, but it doesn't stop twitching. We always have a fish trap to spare. We make 'em just in case. A large basket put in a creek and wait a day or two until something swims inside. I'll sell you one for 2 dragon bones. And if you'd rather eat something right away, she carries after a short pause, our cooks would spare you a roast grouse or a chicken. It'll be cold but fresh. We always have one. You never know when there are maggots in your supplies, and kids shouldn't skip a meal. You ask her to tell you more, but her patience grows thin. It's the best light roast in the north. We had plenty of spices, so it spoils slowly. That's it. So show me the trap. Fish trap for 2, roast chicken for 1. You know what? I am a customer here. I will buy this out. So fish trap. Let's buy it. We can only carry 1 at a time. Roast chicken. We have to buy another one tomorrow. Fascinating. Okay. So let's go ahead and back out of here. Alright, so we have I need supplies. I'm looking for a place to sleep. I don't expect many merchants to reach this place. Why don't you move your traps to Foggy's? Let's start with looking for a place to sleep. We need another hut and we have no space for it. She gazes at you with dry, tired eyes. If you need a scrap or floor, go to the tavern. So I don't expect many merchants to reach this place. Why don't you move your traps to Foggy's? What is it to you? She doesn't wait for your response. Does her yard look like it has space for nets? So... What a happy person here. Alright. We could seek shelter now. We could wait. Kind of want to look at the inventory here. A roast chicken gives nourishment of 3, so that's really good. The wild plants and everything, I don't know if we want to dig into those yet. I wonder if there's a way here. Because those are wild plants, kind of look like what she's doing here. I don't know. I feel like I could try to give her these plants or something. Does Ella have anything else to say about the Eastern Path? Okay, so there's nothing else here for now. So let's go ahead and hit the travel button. Apparently what we're supposed to look for is some kind of crossroads. Now, Foggy Lake is a good place to go. We know we can't go to the cabin. The foraging grounds have predators here. I think we should go west a little bit. I mean, we've got a few places we can try to go, but let's try to squeeze in a little bit more time. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes before dusk. Right, so you squeeze between the hills and the forest. The only larger beast you spot is a single saurian basking on a boulder, lazily observing you from a safe distance. Your ears catch the howls coming from the north, long and loud, while you look at the lake, hoping there's no threat hiding below the water's surface. A few plants growing next to the road mostly bear fruit. The road is not as reliable here as it was on the eastern bank. Parts of it are a bit muddy, and the puddles disturb your ride. So maybe the locals will maintain it before it gets swallowed by the lake. That's true, and if we look at the map, we can't see where we are, but I guess that means there were wolves to the north. That's not great. And now we're on another trail. We still get some bad things in the background here as it's getting late. A deep, loud yell of howlers are piercing your ears, concealing any other sound in the area. They're sitting on branches in the tall grass, not really trying to hide. Their thick black and gold furs cover their entire shells, aside from the charcoal black faces with roundish flat noses and wide nostrils. The younger members of the pack are about the size of your mount's head, but the larger ones would be chest high if it wasn't for the fact that they walk on all fours. Their long tails are like an additional arm helping them climb, hanging from the branches, and to hold on to food as they eat. So they parabulate. That's not the word I'm looking for, but they have tails. They're monkeys. That's what we're looking at, howlers. They aren't particularly muscular, but when they form their pink lips into the shape of a cup to release their howls, their mouths are so wide they could fit your entire arm inside. As you listen to the shouts, you're reaching for your head. You feel a weird itch, but somehow you can't touch it. So the whitish rawhide covers the grass like a blanket surrounded by paw prints. The howlers don't wait for you to approach it. One of the larger ones jumps on the ground, leaning on its hands and challenging you with its gaze. It has rather blunt teeth. So, I have nothing to plug my ears with. It's already dark. Setting up a fishing trap would be dangerous. That's true. So, we could try to do our combat experience, perhaps. We could try to scare him away. Or we could try to grab the rawhide and flee quickly. Let's try that. So you stretch out your legs and dash ahead. At first, the monkeys move away, a few unconvinced yells, but then those from above start to howl even deeper than before, and you feel as if your guts are starting to move, hitting against each other. You get dizzy, and soon the pain enters your skull as you're getting hit by a smith's hammer time and time again, yet you manage to stay calm and focus on your goal. The larger of the creatures tries to cut your path, but being on the ground, they can't keep up with your legs. Without stopping, you grab the rawhide, then carry on, waiting for a few heartbeats before you change your direction, now rapidly getting closer to Sottle. The largest beast leaps from behind a tree and lands right next to you. Its hip flings you back. You crush on the ground and scrape against the beaten ground, pushing your jacket to its limits. Your side hurts, so we can see that our armor is not too happy, but you get back to your feet holding the blanket. Your mount snorts and walks away, ready to flee. So we chase after Sottle. By the time you reach the saddle, the beasts have already abandoned their pursuit, though they still shout angrily. Sottle is more than ready to flee. Its ears are held back, nostrils wrinkled. You wonder if it suffers from the howls. You ride away and take a few deep breaths, then inspect the rawhide. Its wet, torn blanket is worth as much as a bread crust. Still, it's not rotten. If the owner is around, maybe they'll recognize it. So we don't have the option to ride forward for some reason. We're going to travel. And we can't go here. It's too late to explore unfamiliar areas. And yet somehow we can go west here. So the northern road, it looks like we can put a fish here. Like we got to start paying attention to the icons for where we can put fishing traps. So we were having some problems potentially with Foggy Lake and keeping our horse. So we're going to ride back to Creeks. I know it's a little bit of a circle, but Creeks has walls. So that's a plus. Let's see. It is now 15 minutes before dusk. Okay, I need something for howlers. Do you have any earplugs? Her shoulders flinch. But will that work? They can break the skull of a deaf shell. After you shrug, she looks at one of the farmers who's wearing mouflon fur. Give me something good to eat and I'll give you a few tufts of thick wool. Put them in your ears and wear them in a tight hood. Oh, here we go. How about some wild fruits and greens? She nods and orders the farmer to break a knife. We'll need more seeds anyway, and after a few minutes you hold a new pair of earplugs. Well, there we go. That's exciting. New supplies. We can't buy anything else from her tomorrow. I may buy another whole chicken, though. I don't know if we can repair here. It looks like we have meals, but we don't have reparations, and it is pretty late. So I think it's time to seek shelter. It's too dangerous to stay here. You can't sleep here, but there's still time to get to a safer spot. We can go to Foggy. Thankfully, this part of the peninsula is safer than most. Well, shit. What is all this? We have like a fire and shit. I guess it's just not that... I thought it'd be safe. Alright, well. Let's go to... Okay, can we get to Foggy's? Okay, we travel. We don't travel by map. We just travel. So it's nighttime now. Once you get to the ground, Ilan points at the old rawhide you're carrying by your saddle. Looking for a blanket, friend? You'll find one, clean and all, and creaks. This one will get smelly soon. The light shines on the water and the empty road with no herbal beds or travelers in sight. The tavern looks almost like an abandoned habit. Okay, so the foragers are preparing for the night. Let's enter the tavern. Well, we could ask to eat again. I wonder if this inventory... I don't know if this is going to spoil or not, so maybe we should eat the roast chicken first instead of cashing in our meals that we have. So, let's see here. She notices your arrival, but doesn't say anything. I spoke with Caius. Wonder why you decided to keep him around. Ha! Do I need a reason? Her amused eyes get thoughtful as she looks at the ceiling. He came here as a poor soul in need, taught only how to use a spear and a shield. I know how it feels to have all that's good taken away from you. She straightens up her chest with her fist, she straightens up and hits her chest with her fist. But so I know that new paths await us, with or without the help of the others. Caius' legs may be buried in despair, but I'm ready to throw him a shovel once he asks for it. He pauses, then looks through the window. Though these fantasies of his won't help him ask anytime soon. They swallow his thoughts. So some things that we're willing to part with. She doesn't have anything we want to buy. Let's hit the sleep button here. So we can pay 2 rations to rent, and we can sleep in the main hall or we can sleep in the attic. You'll have plenty of space and with many furs to choose from. And that'll get us 1 vitality back. I think that's important. We'll get some money another way, so that's fine. So it's nighttime, finally. Only took how many episodes? The monstrous shouts wake you up. The night is bright, and from the window of the tavern you have a good look at the yard. A few massive dragonlings are exploring the courtyard, knocking over wooden tools with their tails, putting their noses into buckets and underneath the stairs. You count 5 of them so far, but you can't see the entire area at once. One of them spots your look and moves closer. Still, it doesn't try to climb into the door. Maybe it's experienced enough to know it won't get through. So, we're not going to tempt fate and say, stupid lizard. We'll go to sleep with axe in hand. Snuggle with your axe. It's a bed axe. So we can spend the entire day resting if we want to. Listening to the grunts of the annoyed Sodal makes you feel uneasy, but at least the furs covering the floor are helping you relax. You don't even notice when it's already morning, and while the smell coming from the lower floor is not inviting, at least it's not you who has to take care of it. So we can buy some more fresh meals for our money here. How much does the scraps cost? 6, so that's a little much. Alright, we need to eat. Let's eat some roast chicken. I don't know why I can't use my inventory right now. But apparently we can't, so we gotta go outside first. Time for me to go. So we can talk to the foragers again. We could rest all day. I just want to eat my chimkin. Even when cold, it's delicious, juicy, and fresh, with more than enough herbs to give it an unusual flavor, but not enough that it would overwhelm your senses. You wish you had an opportunity to combine it with other foods, but it's already much fancier than a regular chicken pie that you would normally buy in Havlavan. Once you're done, you wash your mouth and fingers with water stored in your bundles. Well, that's great. I don't want to accidentally use my pouch of coins, though. I'm still using my old mouse, so we know not to approach the river. We're not going to be as obsessed with our appearance, although our appearance is very much not happy right now. So we have 2 ways that we can go. We can go this way, or we can go this way. One of these ways takes us to a crossroad. Unless this is the crossroad. I don't know, though. Set on the northern crossroads. Well, let's go here first. I think our best option is going to be to try to go both of these directions. So You leave the lake behind. The pebbled road runs through the hillside with tall grasses and rock faces above you and dark lush forest below. Chunks of this path were shaped by human tools, but who knows how many centuries ago. To widen it, the builders dug through the uneven boulders and used rocks and logs to fill up the cavities of 1,000 rocks, each one smaller than your fist. While you have a good view of what's happening between the trees to your left, the bushes and shrubs grow so densely between them that you can't imagine entering these woods on your own. Farther south, there are plumes of smoke. Well, that's exciting. Another settlement. Oh, at the top of the hill, you reach a stone wall, a quiet place with no smoke coming from behind it. You look inside and see the glimpse of a peaceful ruin. While the main road is beaten and easy for the hooves, the destroyed gate and the remains of the front yard are almost reclaimed by short grasses. You seek any suspicious movement, but the place seems to be free of inhabitants larger than a falcon. The air is fresh, the wind shakes, the tree crowns gently. So we enter the yard. The hamlet could be a hunter's shelter, a military outpost, a storage for traders, but you spot no fresh human trails. The damaged door and gate are years old, soggy and moldy, and judging by the squirrels, birds, and other animal feces you see in the grass, this place is part of the wilderness. The roof collapsed only a few years back, turning it into food for mushrooms. The outer wall looks generations old, but it used to be maintained. Some of the materials came from different times in the areas. I want to check my journal real quick, because we were put on a quest not to find the Roadwarden, although that's true. Bird hunting, no sooner than on day 10. Check Old Pagos. So we have to go back on that other Crossroads, the eastern path. The western Crossroads and the southern Crossroads, and do as much as I can to find more secure here. So... okay, well, this seems like it's part of the area. So before we enter the building, I kind of want to check behind the building. Well, here's our combat sound. I guess I should have gone inside first, although it doesn't look like there's much of a roof. The chaos sparks right as you approach the tree stump. The dusk fox's growl sounds like a hybrid of an obnoxious bird and an infant. One of the animals standing only a few feet away from you is jumping and showcasing its tiny sharp teeth, like a raccoon-like black mask, and a raccoon-like black mask on its little head. The animal, with its thick brownish gray fur, seems more stout than any red fox. The second loud creature gets onto the table made of halved trunk. Unlike the first one, it has a brighter golden fur. It bends one of its forelegs, observing you with its dark eyes. Not furious, nor scared, rather sad and protective, its growl turns into a miserable whine. The beasts are not even waist high, but their number baby an issue. Yet there's another sound coming from behind you, and more from the bushes nearby. So we can use our combat experience. Use violence or a direct threat. It shouldn't be too hard to dodge their attacks. I'll keep myself safe and take a better look at the situation. You take a quick glance and evade the creatures in front of you as it tries to bite your leg. Then you take a wide swing to scare away the third large creature. It was standing right behind you, and while loud, it's lumbering on its paws. The noises of the bushes belong to little pups, most likely harmless, though they are doing their best to imitate their guardians. Aw, puppies. I don't know if we kick a puppy. I need to block their charge. I raise my hands to prepare myself to strike back. Or we could run. I think it's early enough in the day that we can afford to fight here. I raise my hands and prepare myself to strike back. You step back and the fox in front of you jumps in your chest. It hits you. You hit it with a precise kick, sending it into the air. It lands on all fours. Before you decide to run after it, the golden creature catches your forearm with its teeth, unable to pierce through it. Its weight makes you lose focus, giving enough time for a third opponent to reach you. Still, you do manage to avoid its fight, scaring it away as you swing your leg. The animal moves away in a panic. The dusk foxes spread. The two pups keep their distance, piercing your ears with their yelps. The protectors triumphantly growl at you, warning you to withdraw. Well, these things have started to attack me. I kind of want to fight them, but at the same time, they have this place, and it's just one of those things that we've talked about this thematically a few times, is that Kira doesn't want to have to kill all the animals, so we're gonna let them win. You pass the weaker fox and run towards your belongings, encouraging the beast to chase you all the way to the gate as the growling with determination. For now, it stays in the shelter, filled with... Ooh, it was in the shelter? So we can say I need to get rid of these creatures. We could try to scare them off. We have a fun Windows notification in the background. This place was already abandoned, so I'll let the Dusk Foxes stay. They don't threaten anyone. That's true. So, are you sure you want to leave this place to its fate? That's right. So the Dusk Foxes observe you as you climb the saddle. They're growling and walking in circles. One of the pups knocks down their siblings, starting a playful fight. Well, that's cute. Okay, so we have the Dusk Foxes shelter. Now, I'm curious about some of this stuff. We don't know what's like on the trail, and I'd need to start early to check it to see before here. We do potentially have a place where we can set a fish trap. Kind of wish I'd done that before. We may need to go to the statue of a woman in a little bit. But let's go west a little more. The trees on your right get sparser, replaced by yellow meadows and marshes. There are a few lonely birches around, still bearing the signs of tapping, marking with knife cuts and tied with cords. Some of them still carry wooden vessels as if they were simply abandoned, maybe last spring, maybe before that, and a few of the trees are already dried out, and the winds managed to knock them down. As you get closer to the crossroads, the grounds get muddy. The beaten path avoids the wetlands as much as it can. The screeches and hisses mix with the buzzing of insects. As you reach a small pond, there are signs of blood in its bank. The air is moist and heavy, and it has a hint of rotting meat to it. It may still be early, but it better avoid the bogs when nighttime approaches. Such places rarely have fine roads. Here, we're going to have another fight? I don't know. The bogs are darker in the forest. The local creatures start their hunt even an hour earlier, so that's exciting. The trees and bushes are sparse here, growing from barren grasslands. Some of them bear late summer fruit. A group of wayfarers is spread around the broken signpost and abandoned cart. They're skinny but healthy and are standing upright. They're wearing humble dim gamsons on their hemp tunics and pants. All of them worn, in some cases undyed, and others dark green or brown. 4 of these individuals wear cloaks and are armed with spears, bows, and stone maces. Hey, can I borrow one of your spears to fight a bird? On their necks, wrist, and belts, you spot small talismans, fangs, bones, wooden beads, and leather straps. Thanks, buzzing fly. Very, very good sound sampling there. There's also a 5th figure, standing a bit in the back, with lowered shoulders. Unlike the others, they're hooded and with such a manner that you doubt that they can see anything other than their boots. Their clothes are shabby, torn, but your eyes mostly run to their club. A bow as long as the owner is tall and as thick as a leg, resting with one end on the ground. You get closer and the person raises the weapon with just one arm, but another traveler gestures for them to stop, and they do so right away, freezing in place. So let's stay in the saddle just in case. A man behind the gesture doesn't approach you, but just nods. Safe travel, strangers. It may be early, but bogs aren't safe. Better keep moving. You'll find an inn. You try to digest the thick accent. He's broad-shouldered with a large belly, but the scars on his face sculpt an image of someone who's earned their share of the food with many skirmishes. He doesn't reach for his weapon and pushes one of his companions closer to the cart. She kneels by with an empty box and looks inside it. The man observes you with a little curiosity. So, I can ask him if they need any help. Nice place to camp. Could just say greetings. I don't like these. Let's just say greetings. He gives you a slightly deeper nod this time that looks at his companions, who simply shrug and spread to take a look at the cart. All of them but one with a bow, who doesn't move an inch. I cannot say I've time to loaf. Your questions ask, but be quick, and don't put us to sleep. So we don't want to say, are you from around here? Okay, seeking missing hunters. I don't want to ask, is this your cart? Clearly it's not their cart. Hey, criminals, are you criming right now? And I'm definitely not going to ask what's up with this one. Let's ask about the Creeks hunters. Ah! A beast seeker on a dumb bent. She was out on our home days back. Dilla? He looks at one of the other women. 'Twas Dahlia. She corrects him and nods gratefully. Hear that, stranger? She asked us on howlers, spent one night at our hut, and said she'd go north. Then he points to the rawhide hanging from your bundles. This is her, isn't it? Oh, shit. So did we just find a dead howler evidence here? Let's look at our inventory. An old blanket. So that's evidence of one of the hunters. Shit. Well, we got to go back to Creeks at some point. I think I'm probably done with these guys. He steps aside. His companions are giving you harsh looks. The one with the bow remains silent and still like a statue. And see, we have other places we can go, but we can still travel back to Creeks at some time. We just know that we can't, like, leave at Creeks. So dusk foxes inhabit this place. We could put a fish trap here, but I kind of want to keep the momentum going. So east or west, east or west, east or west. If we're trying to make a big old loop, we could always do that this way. Or if we kind of want to cut inside. I kind of want to cut inside. It does put us a little bit more in the marshes, though. You're not used to the sense of the bogs, but you weren't expecting them to be so gentle. See, this is good. Let's explore the bogs in the morning. The gentle air makes you think of smoked meat, and even though you ride by a few rotting carcasses and animal droppings, just as often you cross tiny meadows of pink, yellow, or red flowers. The noises tell stories of never-ending wars between the swarms of insects, frogs, and their hideouts, snakes lurking among the purple grasses, birds patrolling both water and sky, and the saurians preparing to strike from beneath the surface. You can't separate the sounds of the living and those who are dying, if they are even different. You reach a boulder in the middle of the road. On the edge of a large pond, the road splits here in two directions, but the only smoke you see is from the southeast. So there's no creatures standing in our way. Okay, so we could go southeast or east-south. Let's try east-south. That's not a good sound. The road takes you to the edge of the woods. A few trees have found lucky scraps of soil towering above them, while others, shorter and not as lush, have roots sunk in the pond. Some of the plants were felled with tools, so the route itself isn't too dark. While a few sunbeams gather through the weaker branches of your left, are surrounded by darkness and swarms of insects. Help me! Help! That's terrible. I'm sorry, my voice acting is failing. The sudden cry, as well as the screams of pain, reaches you from between the trees. A woman or a child. See, this is what I'm thinking here. We're in the bogs. It's early in the day. It may be a trap, and even if it's not, I can't help them. Let's see if we can spot anyone. I'm going to try to hedge and do the middle thing here. Among the green and red leaves, you don't spot any unusual colors. Come to think of it, there's but a few creatures in sight other than the flies and mosquitoes. The dark-winged birds are quiet. The sparse toads let out sporadic tense croaks. I don't like this. I don't want to just run into a bog. So it all seems to agree with your decision and enters a trot, leading you further east. A minute passes, but you still hear the constant shouts as if someone's getting whipped to their very bones. Well, I'm no hero. I'm a survivor. Okay, you ride along the shallow waters on one side, the flooded trees on the other. You reach what seems like the end of the road. The turn south is already overgrown, most likely abandoned after it was devoured in the bog. But you look north and you see a wide clearing that with time has become a meadow and a lonely hut at the end of an often traveled path. At first you ride down slowly, following the twisted trail. There's plenty of puddles around as well as brown, gray, and purple grasses, but all of them are too short for any lurking predators, and the few foxes you see are not attacking me, so that's a plus. You pass by the fresh tracks of heavy-hooved beasts, but spot no wild game in sight. Your ears can't free themselves of the birds, rodents, and dragonflies. So we don't want Sodal's leg to get stuck in the mud, that's true. Hey look, a shed! That's cool. The further north you ride, the shorter the grass gets. The vast peat fields, broader than the other 2 or 3 villages placed side by side, are many years old. Their turf bricks surrounded by the solitary hut are still fresh, drying in the late summer. The scent of the area is like no bog you've ever encountered. Instead of sublime aroma of healthy soil, it's intense, sulfury, leaving an almost sour taste in your tongue. Well, it's peat. The short scarp is dripping with water, like a running sore on the earth, carved with spade and muscle. The house, made of birchwood, dried turf, and a blanket of soil, is a structure you're not familiar with, but you imagine its interiors are much smaller than they appear to be. The walls are a few feet thick to keep it in the warmth, and such roofs tend to get soggy until they collapse after a decade or so. The only soul in sight is sitting on the bench, stuffing his mouth with fistfuls of green leaves that he takes out of a small basket placed on his knees. So let's introduce ourselves. Still chewing, he mutters something in response, then shakes his hairy head, swallows, and puts the basket away. He stands up, takes a single step forward, approaching the edge of the scarp. I need to get that word right. His arms are entangled by green creepers, longer than he is tall. They rub against the ground after each step, and judging by the way they occasionally twitch, they're very much alive, even though you can't see where they originate from. Kira, the Roadwarden. He repeats, this time clearly. He moves his sealed lips left and right as if he's tasting your name, still not sure if he should swallow it or spit it out. Your face is familiar, but not this! He points at your mouth, staring at it for a good minute. His voice is quiet and young, not older than 30. If you were standing next to each other, he would almost be a head shorter than you, but for now, he towers over you, his sunken cheeks and sloped shoulders, and while his gray woolen robe is never pretty, it's now close to being a rag, and his sandals reveal long toenails. His eyes are as brown and as dark as the grasses of this very bog. His left earring is made of a tusk and a feather, while the right one is an hourglass made of silver, though a broken wing makes it all at the times tilted under its own weight. The leather strips on his wrist and ankles hold beads, pieces of amber, and old game dice, and tiny skulls of bird critters. Wow, he's a hoarder. That's nice. Even the cords are hanging from his neck, some of them so long they reach his stomach. They carry countless amulets, some of them torn, dried, shabby, or fragmented, and you spot among them small boxes made of wood and bone, as well as leather pouches, which hide even more secrets. Were you here before? Mayhap I dreamt you in my sleep. His voice and look are absent. If so, I'm Thyrsus, the Turf Warden. Well, okay. Is warding turf difficult? I run my eyes over the wet scrap. Shouldn't you ward your home out here? Dreamt is probably the better question. He observes you keenly, letting out an approving grunt. No, 'tisn't your shell I saw. By your wandering eyes, hands used to touch beast more than humans, ass burning from the saddle, and a cold sweat fightins. 'Twas man before you're here, Asterian, was lost as you are, lost. He makes a dramatic pause and smiles. But not unwelcome. Okay, we gotta jump right into it. He's gonna bring him up first. Do you know anything about where he is? He raises his chin. Know what I may. His amulets raise after his triumphant announcement, but then he looks at the clouds in the distance. You wait for him to carry on. I sigh, so what do you want? He flinches. Oh, not a thing. He shifts foot to foot. Was just thinking, 'tis all. So where is he? Well, not at my place, that's for sure. To prove his point, he raises one of the creepers and opens the door, though from where you're sitting, you can mostly see the cold fireplace and the darkness behind it. Well, do you have an idea of where I can look for him? Yep, at a monster lair, most likely. See, I'm losing my character here. So, great, you're very helpful. Any monster in particular? He looks away and reaches one of his bracelets. He asked me for help with many, was heading for a journey, he said. Needed a bogey bombs to scare animals away. You push him a bit, but he doesn't seem to have to think long, as if these questions have been bothering him for an entire season. Weirdest ones were from the harpies, and he wanted one for sea monsters, but I have no such things. I cannot poison the sea. As you think of what to make of all this, he starts to tap his toes, taking a deep breath. The huntress living in Pelt of the North, this end at the south of the road. Dalit, Asterian says she knows wild beasts like no other soul. So he was prepared for him anyway. So what do you think of him? He stands with an open mouth, as if he's not sure what you mean by that. I don't? Left me with a heavier pouch, but asked nosy questions, like someone else I know. So was he a client? He crosses his arms, making his creepers hit his ambulance. Never had a witch or a warlock at home. 'Tis wrong of me to speak for others. I take in my pyre a lot of shame and doubt, and I needn't be trusted. He stretches, yawning suddenly. Do you live here all by yourself? Yep, warlocking, peddling, guarding turf. My tribe dug out what they had this summer. I just keep dragons away from the squashing bricks. Your eyes turn west, following the man's raised finger, and you indeed notice a distant trail of massive three-figured footprints now turning into small puddles. They are as long as your torso. Well, that's crazy. With pointy claws, and one appears to be broken at its tip. Is this the way to White Marshes? Both the opposite and quite so. You took a left turn, away from the village, but you wouldn't reach it anyway. The path's sealed. I'm keeping it that way. You look at him to explain as he raises his hands, waggling his fingers as if he's casting a curse. My green pelts keep the troublemakers away, but I can make an exception for a warden, one willing to prove they bring gifts, not troubles. So what's the toll? He reaches his basket and places it on the lower edge of the scarp, crouching right behind it. You look inside. Indeed, it's filled with wild leaves, flowers, and berries. Give me enough for a day or so, and I'll bend the vines for a day or so. Oh, I have some wild plants to spare. Let's look at our inventory. Okay, so we need to find more wild plants. Would food rations be fine? I'm going to assume it's a no. Very fine. He licks his lips, and once he spots a piece of jerky among your gifts, he reaches for it right away with a full mouth. He snaps his fingers and mutters something with satisfaction. So do you have anything to sell, Warlock? He eagerly smiles and opens and steps away, reaching in the doorknob with his right creeper. Odds and ends. Want to buy a hook? Venturers love those, and I've got them for cheap. He doesn't give you time to respond. On most days, I brew a mix of stuff from poisons and medicine. If one's desperate enough to cross the bogs for it, I have one that withers plants, or an old one that kills worms and bugs, and one that keeps flies away for better health. Oh, this shit's expensive. So withering dust to wither plants, a jar with ointment to keep insects away, bug-killing ointment, 3 connected bones, meant to use as a grappling hook. Well, we don't want to spend all of our money right now, but it's good to know this is here. How do you avoid the wild beast? It is them who avoid this place. They're afraid. For spears, my plants, and poisons. Seeing your frown, he raises his creepers quickly, waving them like a dancer would scarves. And yet his arms remain still. They're stronger than muscles, he simply explains. But still, I'm not much of a wanderer. So is Pete worth overseeing? He looks at the nearby bricks and frowns, as if he's seeing them for the first time. Sure, kind of, I think. You ask him to tell you about them, but he admits it's the others who harvest. I meant to pile it up into rickets. He points to a small dolem-shaped structure, but I'm so busy. You ask him what the turf is good for. He starts at the tap of his toes. You can build with it, you can burn it, add it to the soil, and it's great for smoking meat. We use it to dig as slowly and barter stone for a timber, but we changed our ways. Well, that's exciting. All right, so it's interesting. We gave him a ration. I thought there'd be like maybe another path that opens, but maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm kind of looking at the clock right now. This is a little bit earlier of a cutoff than the other episodes I've done, but that's okay. Like I said, I appreciate y'all being here. We've unlocked more of the map. We have a hunch that we found one of the Hunters of Creeks. We do still need to go this way, but I do have a passion for exploring, so I'd like to at least find out what's here a little bit, although I don't want to get too far in the day. At least we're early in the bogs right now. That's important. So that's going to do it for this one. This is Asher with more Roadwarden, where next time we're going to... we have 3 viable options, and 2 options that are really friggin' far away, and it'll take the day. So I think we may just try to figure out if the door didn't open here, maybe there's another blockage that we didn't reach. We did lose a ration. We are a little shorter on food now, but we know where Cheap Chicken is, and we still have some meals available at Foggy's, so we'll be fine. It's all fine. Everything is fine. We're in the smelliest part of the map. This is totally fine. There's something growing on his roof. It's fine. Thanks for watching. You all take care.